Imagine trying to read a message on your phone without glasses. For millions of people, it's impossible. A tiny pair of lenses has become such a normal part of daily life that we rarely stop to think about it. But here's the strange part. For almost all of human history, glasses didn't exist. Yet ancient humans still hunted moving animals across open landscapes, spotted predators hiding in tall grass, crafted delicate stone tools, and survived in some of the harshest environments on Earth. So how did they manage? Were their eyes simply better than ours? Or has something about the modern world quietly changed the way your vision develops? The answer turns out to be far more surprising than most people realize. It isn't just about ancient humans having stronger eyes. It's about the world they lived in, the way they spent every day, and how your own eyes still carry the legacy of that ancient lifestyle. To understand why glasses were almost certainly unnecessary for our distant ancestors, we first need to travel back tens of thousands of years, long before cities, books, or screens filled the human landscape. Picture a small group of hunter-gatherers waking just before sunrise. There are no walls blocking the horizon, and no electric lights keeping them awake through the night. The first rays of sunlight spread across the land as people prepare for another day of survival. Every movement depends on vision. Someone scans distant hills for grazing animals. Another notices faint footprints pressed into damp soil. Children gather edible plants while keeping an eye out for snakes hiding beneath rocks. In this world, seeing well wasn't a convenience. It was often the difference between eating and going hungry, between living and dying. But that doesn't mean every ancient human had perfect eyesight. Scientists studying ancient skeletons can't measure vision directly because eyes don't fossilize. Instead, researchers rely on clues from genetics, anthropology, and studies of modern populations that still live traditional lifestyles. These clues point toward an important pattern. Severe nearsightedness, known as myopia, appears to have been much rarer than it is today. That raises an obvious question. If the genes responsible for human vision haven't dramatically changed in just a few thousand years, why has myopia exploded in the modern world? For a long time, people assumed reading was the main culprit. After all, books require focusing on nearby objects for long periods. As literacy spread, so did concerns that studying damaged eyesight. But the story turned out to be much bigger than books. Researchers began comparing children growing up in different environments. One of the most striking discoveries came from East Asia, where rates of myopia in some cities now exceed 80 or even 90% among teenagers. Yet children living in rural areas often develop it far less frequently. At first, scientists blamed schoolwork alone. Then another clue emerged. Even when education levels were similar, children who spent more time outdoors consistently had healthier vision. The answer wasn't simply less reading, it was more daylight. This discovery changed the entire conversation. Natural sunlight is far brighter than indoor lighting, even on a cloudy day. When your eyes are exposed to bright outdoor light, the retina releases chemicals such as dopamine that help regulate the eye's growth. During childhood, the eyeball is still developing. If it grows too long from front to back, distant objects become blurry, creating myopia. In other words, your eyes aren't just cameras. They're living organs constantly responding to the environment around them. Our ancestors spent nearly every waking hour outside. From sunrise until sunset, they walked, hunted, gathered food, built shelters, and explored landscapes under natural light. Their developing eyes received exactly the conditions they had evolved for over millions of years. But that wasn't the whole story. Think about where your eyes spend most of the day. A phone, a laptop, a book, a steering wheel, a television across the room. Modern life is filled with objects only a short distance away. Ancient humans experienced something completely different. Their vision constantly shifted between nearby and distant targets. One moment, they examined the sharp edge of a stone tool. The next, they looked across valleys stretching for kilometers. Then, they followed birds flying overhead or watched animals moving through forests. This constant change in focus gave the visual system far more variety than many of us experience today. Scientists are still debating exactly how much near work contributes to myopia, but many agree that spending long hours focusing up close, especially without enough outdoor time, increases the risk. Your eyes evolved for movement, distance, and changing environments, not for staring at glowing rectangles from the same position for hours. Then archaeologists uncovered another fascinating clue. Stone tools crafted by ancient humans often required extraordinary precision. Some blades are so finely shaped that modern researchers still admire the skill involved. Tiny spear points, bone needles, engraved shells, and delicate carvings all demanded careful hand-eye coordination. At first glance, this seems like evidence of excellent close-up vision. But these objects also reveal something else. Ancient craftsmanship was usually learned over many years. Skills passed from one generation to the next through practice rather than written instructions. Young eyes naturally focus at close distances more easily than older eyes. Experienced adults often supervised while younger members completed the most detailed work. And aging affected ancient humans too. Around the age of 40 or 50, many people today notice that reading small print becomes harder. This condition, called presbyopia, happens because the lens inside the eye gradually loses flexibility. It's nearly universal. Even if you've never needed glasses before, your close vision often changes with age. Did this happen to ancient humans? Almost certainly. Human biology hasn't changed enough to eliminate presbyopia. The difference was that ancient life rarely required reading tiny letters or threading microscopic fishing hooks under artificial light. Older adults could hold objects farther away, rely on younger members for especially fine tasks, or focus on roles that depended more on experience than perfect close vision. Knowledge became just as valuable as sharp eyesight. The oldest members of a group remembered migration routes, dangerous seasons, edible plants, and successful hunting strategies. Their brains often mattered more than their ability to inspect tiny details. But another mystery remained. If poor vision existed, wouldn't natural selection remove the genes responsible? The answer is more complicated than it seems. Evolution only strongly favors traits that affect survival and reproduction before people have children. Many forms of poor vision develop gradually during childhood or adolescence. Others become noticeable much later in life. If someone successfully raised children before serious vision problems appeared, those genes could still be passed on. In addition, human beings rarely survived through biology alone. We survived because we cooperated. A hunter with slightly weaker distance vision could still gather plants, prepare food, repair tools, care for children, or contribute knowledge. Human societies have always depended on teamwork. Our species became successful not because every individual was perfect, but because groups supported one another. This social cooperation reduced the pressure for perfect eyesight in every single person. Then genetics added another twist. Scientists have identified hundreds of genes linked to myopia. No single glasses gene exists. Instead, vision develops through a complex interaction between inherited biology and environmental conditions. Think of genetics as loading the gun, while the environment pulls the trigger. A child may inherit a higher risk for myopia, but whether that risk becomes reality depends heavily on lifestyle during the years when the eyes are still growing. This explains why rates of nearsightedness have increased far faster than evolution could ever account for. Human DNA hasn't dramatically changed over the past few centuries. Our daily lives have. Today, children often spend most of their waking hours indoors. School, homework, phones, tablets, computers, television, even recreation has shifted inside. Compared with the world our ancestors knew, it's an extraordinary transformation. Some researchers now describe rising myopia as one of the fastest-growing health trends on Earth. The World Health Organization and many eye specialists warn that by the middle of this century, nearly half the world's population could be nearsighted if current trends continue. That prediction would have seemed unimaginable for people living thousands of years ago. Ironically, modern medicine has allowed us to solve a problem that modern lifestyles helped create. A simple pair of glasses can restore vision almost instantly. Contact lenses and laser surgery go even further. These inventions are remarkable achievements, but they also remind us that technology often adapts our bodies to environments they never evolved to handle. Our ancestors adapted themselves to nature. we increasingly adapt nature to ourselves. Of course, ancient life came with countless hardships that none of us would want to experience. Infections, injuries, starvation, and dangerous predators were constant threats. Nobody should romanticize prehistoric life. But sometimes the past quietly reveals something important about the present. Your eyes were shaped by millions of years beneath open skies. They evolved while tracking animals across grasslands, watching clouds drift overhead, recognizing faces around campfires, and navigating forests lit only by the sun and moon. That ancient design still lives inside you. Every time you step outside into bright daylight, your visual system experiences the environment it was built to expect. Every time you look toward a distant horizon, you're using abilities that helped your ancestors survive long before the first village, the first book, or the first pair of glasses ever existed. So why didn't ancient humans need glasses? Some probably did struggle with their vision. Others certainly lost the ability to focus up close as they aged. Human eyes have never been perfect, but widespread dependence on glasses is largely a modern story. It reflects a world where childhood happens indoors, where work is done at arm's length, and where our eyes spend far more time looking at nearby objects than distant landscapes. The next time you clean your glasses or pinch to zoom on a phone screen, remember that this tiny habit would have been completely foreign to your ancestors. Not because they were superhuman, but because they lived in a world that matched the one their eyes had evolved to see. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson hidden in the story of human vision. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't found in a new invention. Sometimes it's found by understanding the ancient world that quietly shaped the body you carry every single day.